our great loop in 2021 has been cut short. We are getting a crash course in insurance. This injury is gonna be a 4-month injury. It's a lot longer than I was expecting, but that's not gonna stop us now.
Have we ever told you why we named our boat Pivot? We named our boat Pivot as a way to embrace change. When COVID hit, we had a year planned of international travels and we were about halfway through it when we got locked down in India for 5 months. We came back to the United States and we knew that we had to pivot again. And so we bought a boat and we named her Pivot. But the pivoting is not over. We have another opportunity to pivot again. Let's go inside.
The Great Loop usually takes about 12 to 14 months to complete and is traditionally broken up into 4 sections for the 4 seasons. Spring is done on the East Coast. Pivot's right here. Summer is done in the Great Lakes. Fall in the Mississippi, and then depending on which journey you go, and then winter in Florida. Since it's currently mid-September, there's no way we can make it from Crisfield, Maryland to Chicago by the end of September.
So that doesn't mean that we're quitting. It just means that we have to embrace pivot again. When we left Maryland to go to Florida for Elliot's surgery and recovery, we thought we'd be gone for about 6 weeks, and we boarded up Pivot with the best knowledge that we knew how. Unfortunately, that 6 weeks turned into 3 months with surgery delays and physical therapy, leaving Pivot to withstand 2 tropical storms. Returning back to Pivot, we realized that we should have done 2 things before we left her. 1, we should have tied up our bimini, and 2, we should have completely taken out everything in our freezer.
We had just restocked our freezer with tons of goodies like ice cream, chocolate, wraps, frozen veggies, Impossible burgers, you name it, we had it. Our freezer's outlet tripped and we were left with a pile of mush, which smelled like a dumpster in our salon.
Our bimini didn't fare any better. The aft part of the bimini completely ripped off, and thanks to Ron, who has a YouTube channel at Amazing Mile Marker Stops, it didn't completely fly off, and we still have what's left. Now, we haven't turned on our engines yet, but that's one of our plans for this upcoming week. Overall, though, Pivot's in really good shape, which makes us so happy to come back to.
Pivot is an old boat. She's a 1989 Taiwanese trawler. And in favor of completing the loop in 2021, we had been postponing some major work. But now, since that's not possible, we're gonna knock them out so we can have a great loop in 2022. We will be redoing our aft head, and lucky for y'all on YouTube, you can't smell what our aft head smells like. So we need to fix that. We are going to be installing 2 new solar panels. We're going to be installing a new battery monitor. We're going to be installing a new anchor. This is something that we have needed for a long time, and we hope that this will help us sleep and not have to be constantly woke up at 2 a.m. And for our last interior project, we will be redoing our forward head.
So our last and our biggest project that we have to tackle is redoing our decks. Our decks are soft, which means that there have been cracks and other ways for moisture, water, to get into our decks and soften them and for them to rot. So decks are typically made out of a fiberglass layer, a wood coring layer, and then another layer of fiberglass. And so since there have been either puncture holes or ways for water to get in, that middle coring of wood has been soaked, and it is completely soaked all over our boat. And this is something that we kind of naively knew whenever we bought the boat, but we didn't fully understand the exact implications of having soft decks. On our maiden voyage and throughout our travels on America's Great Loop, we realized that our decks were leaking when we had this really gross brown liquid come inside and leak inside our interior cabin. And at that point we knew that it was the rotting core from our decks that was causing this brown gross liquid. So we found that out, and we are going to be replacing them since we have the time, and it will dramatically improve our lives living full-time on Pivot.
We are going to go into a lot more detail into these projects in the future. For our next video, we are going to give you guys a formal introduction to Pivot, because I don't think we've shown you guys the ins and outs of Pivot yet. Thank you for all of y'all's support, as we unfortunately can't do the Great Loop this year.
But we're gonna do it next year, and we really appreciate all of you for watching as we pivot yet again and we do all these boat projects and get to do America's Great Loop next year in 2022.
All right,
oh my God, Ollie's down here with us. Are you nervous? What are you doing down here?
Because it smells really bad, and now it's time to, you know, unfortunately toss everything that's inside.
It smells like fermenting stuff.
Yeah, we're making alcohol out of ice cream, fruit, and tortillas.
You're the reason why everyone likes our channel, right? It's not us. It's you. You're the cutie pie. Aren't you? Oh yeah. You're the love bug.
Pivot! Pivot! It's a hot day. A little bit of shade. Ollie, come on, let's turn on the AC.
Yeah, that's why we need the Bimini.
Well, the good news, our moisture meter works. The bad news, our entire decks are soft.